So we've covered risks and how they affect a project, but we haven't fully discussed dependencies, arguably one of the biggest factors in a project. In this video, we'll discuss dependencies, both internal and external, how to identify and track them, as well as their importance. There are a few different types of dependencies, and we'll discuss a few examples of each one. So what exactly are dependencies? Dependencies are the links that connect one project task to another. And, as we mentioned, they're often the greatest source of risk to a project. Two or more project tasks may have a relationship with one another in which the completion of one task is reliant on the initiation of another task, and vice versa. Think of these tasks like a line of dominoes, toppling each other over one by one. If one domino falls, it'll knock the next one over, and so on and so on. For instance, a construction company may have a number of jobs across the city. Each project requires a foreman and a project manager to be chosen before the requirements, timeline, and budget get sign off, and the crew is chosen. You wouldn't choose a crew and tell them to get to work before the work has been clearly scoped and the contracts were signed. That's an example of an internal dependency, which describes the relationship between two tasks within the same project. External dependencies, on the other hand, refer to tasks that are reliant on outside factors, like regulatory agencies or other projects. For instance, if a construction company is scheduled to demolish a building site, they'll have to wait until their project is approved by the city. External dependencies aren't always in the project manager's control, but it's important to be aware of them so that the project stays on track. Mandatory dependencies are tasks that are legally or contractually required. For instance, when that construction company finishes the demolition and starts the rebuild, they'll first have to pour a concrete foundation and then have it inspected by the city to ensure it meets their standards before the construction company can continue to build. Lastly, discretionary dependencies are defined by the project team. These are dependencies that could occur on their own, but the team saw a need to make those dependencies reliant on one another. For instance, the construction company may be using concrete from a new supplier and want to run a test, pouring a portion of the foundation to get a better estimate of the total amount of product they'll need to complete the foundation rather than buying too much or too little product up front. The task of pouring a portion of the foundation comes first because the team needed more information before making a decision. A project manager has to work diligently to incorporate dependency management. Dependency management is the process of managing all of these interrelated tasks and resources within the project to ensure that your overall project is completed successfully, on time, and in budget. To pursue effective dependency management, there are 4 important steps that a project manager can take: proper identification, recording dependencies, continuous monitoring and control, and efficient communication. The first step is proper identification. A project manager will have to brainstorm all possible project dependencies with their team and categorize them accordingly. Next step is recording dependencies. After all dependencies are identified, a risk register should be created. A risk register is a table or chart that contains your list of risks and dependencies. The risk register should include a description of the dependency, the date, and all activities or tasks that may be impacted by the dependency. Then, a project manager will want to maintain continuous monitoring and control. This means you will want to schedule regular meetings to check in on the interrelated tasks, staying up to date on any progress being made, and double-checking for changes that will impact other tasks. Last step is efficient communication. Keeping the project team and stakeholders updated can help resolve dependencies and keep the project going strong. To recap, we just discussed how to define dependencies, both internal and external, and we learned the importance of managing and tracking dependencies. We also discussed the importance of clearly defining dependencies at the project outset, like in our foundation example, and learned about dependency management. In the next video, we'll give you concrete techniques to manage the risks in your project. I'll meet you there.